Hello, and welcome to Unsheathed with your hosts, Kyell and K.M. We hope that you enjoy the program. Please stick around afterwards. There'll be cake and blowjobs.
And the evening news.
And hi, and welcome to Unsheathed number 68. I'm your host, Kyell Gold. I'm here in our secret mountain bunker with
what is up, Furry Nation? I am K.M. Hirosaki.
And on Arts and Entertainment, we have a special guest this week. Colson Otter's joining us in the studio.
What up? Are you guys on Quaaludes? You're like, hey, what's up?
We're pretending it's 1970, and we're all very chill.
You mean we've just smoked a shit ton of weed? I've probably got acid, too.
That's not what we confess to online on this podcast, but...
I only have my one drug of choice, and it is sweet, sweet liquid salvation.
You mean life?
Yes.
You're high on life.
Like Yosemite Bear, I am high on life.
Yes.
Yosemite Bear?
Yeah. Somebody out there gets the reference.
Yosemite Bear? You mean like Yogi?
No.
Or is it Yellowstone? That's Yellowstone, isn't it?
It is Yellowstone.
It's
or
technically
Jellystone.
Jellystone.
Oh, you're right.
I was going to say.
Sorry.
And now I can't see it without thinking about that alternate ending.
Oh my God, it's
was
amazing.
linked up on Weasel Wordsmith. Anyway, we're very glad to have Colson joining us.
Thank you.
Yes.
We're all
This is a jammy one.
still looking forward to FC, but by the time this episode is posted, FC will be over, so there's no point in telling any of you about it. We are sure it was an amazingly fun time. We want to thank all of our guests and all the people who came to the live show.
And all the free wine I got.
And all the Coke Zero, especially the Australian Coke Zero, which was amazing. Thank you, TJ Fulf, for that.
And all the sex afterwards.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
The context was the best context I've ever had.
That was pretty awesome.
And we keep telling people to stick around after the shows, and,
By the way, that one really tall, well-hung guy, I forget your name, but call me.
His name was Colson.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know, Kit and I missed most of that. We went back to our room for our own...
Cribbage.
So, the...
Cribbage.
Yes.
Yes.
They're very good
Cribbage.
at cribbage.
So why is cribbage trending among our friends now?
Is it?
I don't know, Jacoby plays cribbage.
Pound cribbage?
I don't know.
Pound cribbage.
Pound cribbage.
Nice.
I don't know. It just seems like somebody said recently, like, if you were going to be a furry in the Bay Area, like, people were like, oh, do you know how to play cribbage? Which
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't heard that.
I
haven't heard that either.
Jacoby who plays it.
Yeah,
I used to play
Rufus likes
cribbage
cribbage
like
and
a
he plays it
long
all the
time
time,
ago.
but that's the only other person
I don't even remember the rules. It's been that long since I played.
Do we have a Bay Area official game? Like the thing? That is like,
There was a cribbage tournament at FC at least 2 years ago. They had
well, there's
cribbage
like all
tournament.
kinds of tournaments. There's Rock Band, there's
But yeah,
poker.
but I mean, there's enough people who play cribbage that you can have a con tournament based
I don't even
on
know what it is. It's cards.
Cribbage?
Yeah, it's a
in
card
a
game.
of a board.
It's basically, you have to be able to add and count to 15 and 31. That's about the
Oh,
size
that
of
sounds
it.
really hard.
Yeah. It's kind of a pain.
Yeah.
Otters,
I like playing the-
otters are bad at math because it's hard to count our fingers with all the webbing in the way.
Yeah, I'm outnumbered by otters today.
All of our special guests are otters. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Last week we had Don Ryu, who was an
That's
unspecified anime fag.
He's a thing, yeah.
He's a Super Saiyan.
yeah.
I believe I believe he's a white tiger, and certainly not still sitting here in the studio glaring at me.
He stayed the entire week just to glare at you.
Yes. Well, we told him we were going to keep him here. We just didn't say we were going to let him talk every episode.
Yeah. They're just getting a bunch of laughter and nothing else.
I know. I was going to say, don't you all love the bits of where we all laugh at something that you guys can't see or hear?
Like half of last episode with all the visual humor.
Anyway, we do want to thank everybody for, and I'm hoping that like the FC didn't go horribly, and so, but people show up to the live show, so thank you all for that. And what else are we talking about this week? We didn't really have an agenda. We have Furry Fiesta coming up. We will at least Kit and I will be out there, and we hope that Hirosaki-san will join us as well.
I hope I'm going to make it too. I'm a little more confident. I'm up from 70% to 75%.
And that is at the end of February, I think. Last weekend, is it?
It is the last weekend of February.
And then after that, we've got Kit and I are talking about trying to get out to FWA. We think it would be fun. We've had a petition put out by Cy Cheetah that has 15 names on it, and
Donry will be there.
And Donry will be there, so yeah.
And you need a petition to go to a con now.
No, we actually were thinking about the con. The petition was for our road trip. We said any stop anywhere in the country that could get 15 people to show up at a bookstore.
So, like, demand it.
Right.
You're being demanded.
Yes. But we're looking into FWA, so we might be out there. But definitely Furry Fiesta is our next stop on the road tour.
I highly recommend FWA. It's a very well-run con, great location, and it has a fucking Trader Vic's in the basement of the hotel.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. When you get there on Thursday, you can get, like, all the... What's their signature drink and like the
Mai Tai.
The Mai Tais.
Yeah.
They're like $4.
Wow.
I got so wasted on Thursday when we went originally.
I would love to get wasted on Mai Tais like tonight.
It's a Trader Vic's too. It's
I know.
so dope.
There's one not too far from our mountain bunker.
That's true. There is. But, I mean, did you ever go to one where it was so convenient where you're in the con hotel and you just went to the basement? You're like, let's go to Trader Vic's, and you go every night?
Let's all pause for a moment to think about that.
Yeah. That alone is worth the cost of admission.
That alone is worth the trip into Stab Town.
It really stabs down.
Yeah, we're kind of hesitant about it. I mean, we heard it's a really good con, but we'd also heard that book sales weren't necessarily all that great there. So, and you know, we're trying to figure out how we can get our books out and
tell everyone to
say,
say,
the table.
Hey
and
guys.
I was just informed by the Giant Head it's in a different hotel this year, so don't go. I mean, it's amazing still. Was that not public knowledge? Wait,
I would assume it had better be public knowledge by now. People are making reservations and
2.5 months.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't look at me like that.
Don't look at me like that.
The Big Giant Head.
You know, message incoming from.
The Big Giant Head? You've
Right.
never...
Or what on Notcast they call telefucking.
Yes. With your... Yeah, anyway.
So we have some questions. We got one question, which was for... which at least is partially directed for Colson. So I think we can let him read that one. And then the other ones that we have to read will hopefully be entertaining and enlightening. But actually, before we do that, are you going to be anywhere live where people could see you perform anywhere further this year? Are you planning a North American tour?
I don't tend to perform live. It's not that I don't enjoy it, but I'm more of a songwriter than I am a performer.
Where could people meet you if they were so inclined?
What's that?
Where could people meet you?
Where could they meet me? Well,
now that FC is over.
Now that FC is over, I will be retreating into my dark room and never coming out again. I don't know. I don't make plans that far in the future. I may go to AC. I doubt I will go to Furry Fiesta or FWA.
But you just told us how awesome it was.
Yeah, but it's in a new hotel this year.
I'll probably go to AC. So
Oh, yeah, those things. Any upcoming CDs or projects? So, yes, my next project is doing 2 more Unsheathed bumpers because I was going to do them yesterday, and while I'm an idiot, because like I have an electric guitar now, and I didn't used to play electric guitar very much. I used to play acoustic entirely, and pretty much everything I'm doing now is because I'm really into rock and dance rock, so I'm playing the electric, and there are locking tuners on the guitar, and I didn't know how to use them, so essentially it's like this little screw nut thing in the back, and so I'm trying to change the strings because they're grimy and they're crappy, and I was going to, restring my guitar and do everything yesterday, and I can't figure out how to get the damn string out of the peg tuner, and I'm like, seriously, I am a freaking idiot. So like I get out the wire cutters, because you have to have wire cutters anyway when you're stringing a guitar, and I cut it in half, and I pull the bottom end out because that's easy, but I'm pulling so hard in the top half and everything, and I'm like grabbing it by the wire cutters, and I'm trying to pull on it, and it's not budging or anything. And then I finally get everything out, and it like rips out of the thing, except there's still this little hunk in there, and I'm like trying to stick like tweezers in there and like poke it out, and I'm like, what is the problem? So eventually I was gonna take it to a guitar store, but then like looked at the guitar's website and found out, oh yeah, it's locking tuner, you have to unscrew the thing on the back, and so I felt like an idiot. But
hopefully no permanent damage to the guitar.
No permanent damage, no, just my pride, which is permanently damaged.
I know we've had incidents in the past with some of the camera equipment we got where we didn't quite understand how it worked and ended up with little sort of extra notches in parts that move around that shouldn't necessarily have them. But
yeah, but that's a complicated thing. Guitars are not complicated, and like imagine for you guys, you have your laptop, which is your primary writing instrument, and all of a sudden you forget how to type, or there's some like really normal portion, how you write.
Save.
Yeah, and it's like you forget how to use a mouse and everything, and like you need to move the cursor, and you're holding the up arrow, and it takes you forever. It's like it's something so stupid where it's like, really.
Or like what happened with my laptop, where I hit some weird key combination and it turned my screen into portrait mode. Suddenly,
wow.
My screen all just went like 90 degrees flipped,
And you could figure out how to get it back?
I could not get it back
Oh.
with the key press.
One time I
had to go
hit
to
some,
and
yeah.
the trackpad was all screwy because it wasn't tracking properly, and so I had to like get to the control panel and like change the monitor settings to go back to landscape mode, and I still have no clue what key combination I did that flipped it.
Did you do the Microsoft trick? Did you reboot?
No, I didn't do that.
I did this one thing where I used some key combination and it turned off my wireless adapter, and there was no software means to turn it back on.
Wow.
And like I rebooted it and it still would come on, and like I was swearing at my computer, and then like I eventually figured out like what it was, and it was like some function key thing that I hit that just turned the wireless adapter off, and there was no way to turn it back on other than using the keyboard.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting back to that, now that the guitar is really strong, I will be doing that. You should guys ask your fans what kind of bumper they may want, because we had talked about the Jokey Joke Scott Pilgrim one, which I still kind of want to do because I think it's funny, but I can do quite a number of different styles and everything. So I'll do a couple of those. They don't take very long now that I know what I'm doing.
We should get some we can put on like an iPod or MP3 player or something that we can play at the beginning of the live shows. That'd be kind of cool. What?
We can vote for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking to the fans directly, so
I am talking to the fans directly.
ask them what kind of bumpers.
Yeah, exactly. Like what style, or like you could say like
Give them some choices.
Yeah, like so I want to do the Scott Pilgrim one, so that's easy. So I mean, I have quite a variety of software instruments and actual instruments to do. So I can do a variety of styles from folk to rock to funk to R&B. I guess I could even do rap, but I would probably kill you afterwards for suggesting it. But I can do.
Here's my new bumper
stuff,
called "Otters Ain't Shit."
Well, hold on, Kit. I have so many other questions to answer. Yes, I'm getting to the other one. Yes, that one first. So Kit is holding up pieces of paper and telling me to answer questions. So
That's what a producer wolf does.
yes. Do I have any additional CDs or projects coming up? So the projects, I'm thinking about maybe doing just a complete shift in format and not actually doing strict albums in this sense anymore, because the last one did not do very well. Maybe it's because I suck, but maybe it's because people just don't like to buy albums. So I was thinking about just
sales are down in the new digital download.
yeah, but even like
yeah.
they're still doing better than like actual like physical media.
Right, but
because
singles are where it's at.
Singles are where it's at and everything, but then when you do singles, then people want to hear like 5 different remixes and radio mixes and all kinds of stuff, and I'm not a big remixer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, as far as albums go, we're past the point where, like, it used to be unfeasible. You wouldn't pay, like, $10 for a CD single, but it's like, well, it's like, I pay $15 for, like, the whole album, which is, like, the 3 songs I like and the 12 that suck.
Right.
Like, you don't need to buy those other 12 songs anymore.
Right.
And it's not like that for a lot of bands, I think, but I mean, certainly it used to be. I think a lot of bands now are trying to focus on making a really cohesive thought from start to finish.
Well, you kind of have to now.
Or
That's what
even
listeners
concept
want.
albums. Yeah, but it's like...
I find I really enjoy concept albums.
I think
personally.
a bunch of the ones that Kip bought a few albums recently, and I think like Arcade Fire was one that has a strong concept beginning to end. What was the other one? My Chemical Romance
My
also
Chemical Romance, yeah.
has a sort of strong beginning to end. And
I love the story behind that, too. The new album is great. And, of course, their last album before that was a concept album, too.
Right.
About a guy
Black
dying from
Parade.
cancer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Green Day's last 2 albums.
Green Day-
also.
Green Day's last 2 albums. Although I vastly preferred American Idiot. Sorry.
I like 21st
You
Century
really
Breakdown
like
a lot.
21st Century Breakdown.
I like it, and I've found that it gets me. I'm so used to the music now that I still enjoy hearing it, but it also gets me into a mode to be sitting at the computer writing and working, and so that really helps a lot.
Right.
I will say that I think the actual storyline portion of American Idiot comes across more strongly than the story of 21st Century Breakdown. But
We also just got a friend of ours sent us the cast recording from the American Idiot Broadway musical,
How's that?
which is it's pretty good.
I've heard a few tracks, and I like them. Yeah.
They use a few of the 21st Century Breakdown tracks in it,
Interesting.
and
But you still kind of keep the theme and the story from...
seems like it. Yeah.
I mean, 21st Century Breakdown still has like anti-establishment themes, which fit in pretty easily with American Idiot.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, they have a woman singing some of the tracks, which is they split up some of the parts between them. It's kind of interesting because like the guy they have singing lead sounds like Billy Joe, but he's more of a polished singer, and I don't mean that as a knock against either one of them.
No, but it's the Broadway style.
He's just more like, where it's most noticeable is when Billy Joel sings "fucking lies." This guy's like "fucking lies." And so it's a little jarring when you hear it for the first time, but it's still a good interpretation of the song.
That's
and
cool.
It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, so go back to the format change. So I'm thinking about maybe just offering everything for free and then just doing things on a donation basis. So basically, making all the music available for free and everything, and just basically telling people, hey, I appreciate the fact that you're fans of my music. Please disseminate it freely. But if you want to donate, that does help me, give additional
Purchase
funds towards
equipment
additional
and-
purchases.
Maybe they'll pay to TS with you.
Probably not, but thank you for the plug. I appreciate
KM
that.
is trying to come up with his own sort of business.
A business
Yeah,
model.
your business model?
to, yeah.
Oh, well, I get it, though. That makes
He's been
sense, right?
working on
Because
that
it's
ever
like
since
you can
last
TS, with an established author, so you could be better than everybody else.
Well, but he could also offer TS sessions with some of the characters from his stories.
Ooh,
Oh, I
wow.
hadn't thought of that.
That is cool.
Wow, that actually had not crossed my mind. I just
That's
thought
a
everyone
great
wants a
business
piece of
model.
otter.
And if you want to license, there's a few characters in some of my stories that I'm pretty sure that I would feel comfortable licensing you to portray in a role play setting.
And,
Wow.
if this takes off, I will develop and offer a TS training correspondence course. I will offer helpful pointers and editing on your poses.
KM Hirasaki's Porn College.
What's the degree?
You have a TS. We have to figure out what it stands for.
I kind of like a BS in TS.
BS and TS?
Like a TS, like
TS and TF?
like a typers of science or something.
Typers.
A typers of salaciousness.
Typers of sex.
Well,
Yeah, well, the S already stands for sex, though.
Well, yeah.
Welcome to Gray Muzzle
Typers of
Cast.
seduction.
People are like, "What's TS? I don't get it."
Oh, no.
for those of you out there that don't know, it means tiny sex.
Yes.
Which
And if you don't know
really
what
help
tiny
him.
sex means, it means online fucking.
It means sex
AKA
on sex
type
on a
fucking.
tiny mud.
Yes,
or
on a
tiny
tiny
MU,
mud. Yes.
which
Yes.
is one of the very first social platforms.
Yes.
Because as soon as someone developed a social platform online, people were using it to have sex. And you were
What-
paying homage to the boundless creativity of the human race in its pursuit of sex play
That
by
is-
using the term TS.
That is the best part about the human race, is that no matter how technologically advanced or logically advanced we become, we will always use everything new we discover to find out how to have sex with it.
Yes.
Or make sex better
Exactly.
with it.
Prostitution
Exactly.
is the world's oldest
Well,
profession.
I have a friend who claims and can argue persuasively that most technological advancements of the human race were driven by porn.
Awesome. I don't doubt it. There's also the school of thought in psychology that like almost 95% of everything we're driven to do, at the root of it is sex as a motivator.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean,
I
given
mean,
all
look
the
at this
context
podcast.
I will have had
yeah,
at
you mean
FC
that you've already had,
that I've already had,
and will have again.
Yes.
which was so great with Colson.
Yes,
It
was hot.
It's all about getting fans by writing well and doing a podcast and just getting
That's-
sweet play.
That's all going to be released as episode 69B.
By the way, all the things that we learned together in the TS correspondence course and when we were beta testing it,
Yeah.
we used live, and it translated pretty well. So
I mean, like the
recommend-
macro, like otter muscle transformation is kind of hard to pull off in real life,
It
but
is.
it was still hot to imagine.
Yes, the imaginatory real life,
Yeah,
actual happening sex.
it's like if real life were Scott Pilgrim, we could do this.
If we could level up.
I think then you need to include Furfragged in some of this.
Oh, that's
Yes.
true. He's into that. Wow. Wow. So let's. There were other things in there. Hold those up again.
Yeah, he wanted. We were asking about Camp Farrell because
At Camp Farrell, yes, I was the GOH, aka the guest of honor last year for Farrell. It was a good time. The weather was not cooperative, and it was cold as hell. A couple.
Canada.
It's Canada, but it's so not well. It's not early in the year, but it's early enough in the year in early September that it potentially could be very nice. The couple of days when I first got there, they had their hottest days of the year, which I went to the Toronto Zoo and just sweated my balls off. Walking
hot
around
days
there.
are great to go to the zoo too because the animals are all just lying around doing nothing. So
Well, they were.
yeah,
They were probably like, "What the fuck? It's Canada." But it all balanced out later because when we get to the con, the part that matters that you want to have good weather at, it rained pretty much the entire freaking time. We had very little bit of slivers of sun coming out. So I don't. This all sounds like really negative and like, don't go to Farrell, it'll rain. But apparently weather is always an adventure for Farrell. But we had a good time. I had a good time. It was an interesting experience. I'm glad that I went. I did meet a lot of very nice people. Everybody that runs the con is very, very cool.
they're all super awesome.
They are all super awesome. It is a very well run con. maybe one of the best ones that there is, as far as staff knowing what they're doing. So,
Yeah, I will say for when we were at Farrell, we barely saw any of the staff the whole time. They were all super busy. But B, they were telling us afterwards at like the dead dog party, oh yeah, this thing happened and this thing happened and this thing happened, and we're like, really? We'd never heard anything about it.
No idea.
Yeah.
All I know is that many, many, many years ago, one of my friends was telling me about when they had the contest to see how many people they could fit into a single shower.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh wow! I just derailed us with sex. Oh snap!
Oh no. Well, Kit and I might try to go back this year. This year.
Yeah.
we're
Did you
thinking
hear
about
who their
it.
guest of honor is?
We did.
Yeah. It's funny because they usually have 2 guests of honors, and now they just have 1. Oh wait, it's still 2. So
They are an entity.
what about those news? Are you talking about mine? They're not new. Are you serious? They're new to you? They're copies of James's work. They're not, though. I mean, it's a slightly different style, but yeah, I do love these shoes. I have the Pumas.
I'm probably gonna have to cut that bit.
You're probably gonna have to cut that bit. You're like, look at these things you can't see. Let's
Here's
just say
details about our interlinked.
let's just say
personal
that to those of you listening out there, my shoes are amazing, and now you want to have sex with me. Thank you.
And the shoes that you will have seen at Further Confusion.
Yes, if you're there. Yes, thank you, Dunny.
But let's.
So we had this question to
we have
read.
a question to read
Let's get to it.
from Cluffy Folly, who actually was my 1,000th Twitter follower this past weekend.
Yeah,
Ding-
he just started
what prize did he
following me
win?
too.
He won me following him back.
Wow. Ooh, that doesn't usually happen.
No.
Kyle's too good to follow.
If you go to Kyle's page and everything and you look at the ratio from followers to
followee,
you got to be kind of special. Let's just put it that way.
Kyle's like, I'm too busy writing you guys new books to read
Yeah.
1,000 people's Twitter feeds.
Who are you? I don't care. Get out. No, I'm just kidding.
You're not supposed to be able to see that.
I know, isn't it funny? But you can do that. You can generally find out the douche quotient by just looking at how many people follow someone versus how many people they follow back, and you can get a relative idea if they're a friendly person. Not a friendly person. I think I only follow 122, and I have close to 1,000 followers.
For the record, Colson was pointing to himself when he said that, but he could have also been pointing to me or KM, I think, for that matter.
Yeah. I actually don't have a big Twitter base. I have
But you
a
don't
fifth
really-
of either of yours.
You don't really follow that many people either, do you?
No.
I have a suggestion. Just tweet about sex constantly like I do, and you'll have a lot more followers.
Yeah.
But when I do, I get really dumb comments in return.
Well, you think I don't?
Yeah,
Are you serious?
I should accidentally fake DM you to my public feed, some sort of TS DM.
Yeah, those do happen quite often. I'm looking at you, Lace. Anyway, dear Kyell, K.M, Kit, Colson, and Donrio, who doesn't count because he's off being a Super Saiyan somewhere else. Since this episode is going to be split amongst the various creative arts, I have some questions which I hope to encroach upon all of your domains. First off, where do you tend to look for inspiration when writing lyrics or a story? I often find myself staring off with a vague idea of where I want to go, but I always end up stopping after the first few lines, having lost momentum. I grew up fairly sheltered, so I don't have any personal experiences to draw on. I'm sure that's not true, Cluffy.
Yeah.
Which is what most people have already advised me to start with. Also, when writing a story, how much do you think the main plot arcs can stand out from the rest of the narrative before it starts to seem like 2 books with one cover? And is it a bad thing if you have multiple independent arcs so long as they converge at some point? Anyhow, thank you for taking your time out to guide and advise your fans. I hope it remains as fun for y'all to record as it is for us to listen. Regards, Cluffy.
Cluff is also a musician. I don't know if you're aware of him, but
I am aware of him.
Okay,
he is a fine, upstanding gentleman who frequently comments on my FA. So
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
and yes, I'm sure that that saying you have no personal experiences to draw on is false.
Everybody has personal experiences. Whether or not you think that they're interesting is entirely up to you.
And they may differ in degree. Like, you may not be the person who was brought up in Beirut and, woke up to your house being shelled one day and had to run across the border hiding and, had to deal with a war, or the person who was abandoned and, brought up in an orphanage and had to make their own way in the world from the age of 10 and whatnot. But you've still had personal experiences. You've had triumphs and disappointments, and whether it was this was the summer that I read more books than anyone else, or I read more books than ever before, and I discovered this, and it meant great things to me, or, this was the summer when I fell down and twisted my ankle, and I couldn't go to the hopscotch picnic the next day.
You know, it's funny. Like,
Hopscotch?
when you mentioned Beirut, I had another like gray muzzle cast moment because I was like, remember when they used to call it the Lebanon?
Wow.
What?
Yeah,
The Lebanon?
They used to call it the Lebanon.
Well,
the is gone now.
it's kind of another gray muzzle thing anyway, because it used to be like war-torn Beirut.
Yeah.
And now there's other war zones
Yeah.
that are...
I don't think I've heard
much more
Lebanon in the
attention.
news in like a long time.
do
I'm
remember
sure
that.
it's still not...
Oh yeah,
but-
it wouldn't be my first choice of places to move.
What would be your first choice?
If I had to move,
Yeah.
where would I want to go? Oh, that's a whew.
You
Well,
opened up that
back home to Ado, right?
Edo hasn't existed in several hundred years.
Well,
They call it Tokyo now.
hush. I've been reading David.
I would not want to live in Tokyo, actually. Tokyo is just so... It's like the LA of Japan. It's just like, all the time.
Yeah, but there's nice parts to L.A.
Yeah, but I wouldn't
parts
want to
that I
live
like.
there either. Like, I like to visit it, but I wouldn't want to live there.
I don't know. You live along sort of West L.A., Santa Monica, along the beach. That's a pretty nice area right there.
You know, Cancun, I could probably stand and just sit on the beach and write for the rest of my life.
Yeah, following up on last week's podcast, anywhere that's nice, temperate, and cheap.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of places that like would be on my list, but I've never been there, so I can't say for sure. Like, I've never been to Australia, but I've always wanted to go there. Mm-hmm. And not just because we have so many great listeners there.
Which we do. Who bring us Australian Coke Zero?
Yeah, and Australian
drinking
wine.
one?
No,
Oh,
I'm drinking an American one.
TJ got me an Australian
I could-
Shiraz.
I can taste the sadness.
But yeah, so to the actual question about
Yeah, so where do you-
inspiration some more.
Where do you look for inspiration for lyrics?
You were, yeah.
You know, there was a quote that I think I've recently seen, but I remember reading it before, that pretty much all songs fall under one of two things, love or loss. And it's always, sometimes they're combined. So even a lot of my songs are about love and loss. So, I went through a breakup about, it's like 2 or 3 years now, of my 7-year relationship. And, the entire first album that I did, every single song was about that. Several songs from the second album was not necessarily about this, him specifically, but we're all about the same subject. Recently it's just been, again, this is different from how you draw upon personal experiences, but I can speak to that later. But the way that I kind of write songs, remember, they're microcosms for if you're writing a short story or a novel or anything that's requires a lot more in-depth planning when you're in the planning stages and starting to think about a story. But just starting with just a kind of a tag phrase, or something pops in my head in the shower, it's just a single line or even just a song title, and I structure the entire lyrics around that. And I always start out thinking, well, this is going to be about nothing, but it always ends up being about something, which is kind of strange.
So something that we heard about, and I think I've talked about it multiple times, but I had heard that the best pop songs, the lyrics kind of have to not make a lot of sense. That it's good. It's more important that they sound good than that they mean something.
Right, absolutely, and I do agree with that. And there's a lot of people that ask me, how do you come up with lyrics that do that? And the thing is, I actually don't. A lot of times, my lyrics are open to so much interpretation that I love it when people comment and they're like, well, this means this, and someone will comment and they'll be like, no, it means this, and I'm like, actually, you're all wrong. But I mean,
But to them, it does mean
but to them,
that.
but to them, it does mean that. So, and I think that's a hallmark of a great lyric, is something that is open to interpretation. When it comes to music and musicality, if it's going to work for pop and rock, you need to worry about the cadence more than the fact that it rhymes, or does the lyric actually make sense. One of the coolest songs in existence, and I forget the dude's name that wrote it too. It was called "The Riddle." Everybody knows the song "The Riddle," right? No? Wow.
Was that Nick Kershaw?
Might be, yeah. I forget the dude's name. It's kind of a one-hit wonder. Basically, the riddle, the actual lyrics of the song that he has for the riddle are garbage, and they mean nothing. But everybody, for years and years and years after he wrote it, were basically trying to find out, what the hell does this guy mean? And everybody kind of expounds on, well, here's the meaning of the song. It comes out, like way later, like 20 years later, when he's talking on the production notes. These are garbage lyrics that he wrote just to sing over it and get a cadence for how he wanted to write the actual lyrics. But the takes were so good and it sounded so good with the music, they kept it. But his original intention was to just write garbage lyrics that just fit the cadence for the music and then go back and rewrite them, but they never did.
That is also true of The Look by Roxette. The actual verses were just placeholder garbage lyrics.
That's why nobody knows how to sing the verses of The Look. Everybody sings along to the chorus, and then it's
walking like a man, hidden like a hammer. She's a juvenile scam. Never was a quitter. Tasty like a raindrop. That doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. So it's just like listening to Owl City.
Yeah.
But there are so many people who like Owl City, but it's like, oh my God, I got to show you this. There's a YouTube video of this guy that makes fun of him, and he's just one of his lines is, "I'm just singing random words, and my sitting posture is really bad." And he's like doing this while playing his piano, and it looks just like one of his videos too. It's classic. But
another podcast I listened to was trying to do a literal interpretation of the lyrics to "Hello Seattle." It was hilarious.
Oh, that sounds great.
When one of the stories from when Paul McCartney was writing Yesterday, he was just working on the tune, and he didn't have any lyrics for it, so the lyrics he kept singing were scrambled eggs. And he would just sing about his breakfast until
scrambled eggs.
The band,
right?
Yeah, the band manager came up and was like, "Okay, Paul, you need to write different lyrics for this song."
It's great.
Scrambled eggs, scrambled eggs. Do we have to pay royalties for that?
No.
Okay, good.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, as far as taking inspiration, I actually get a lot of inspiration from song lyrics. My brain will hitch onto a single lyric of a song, and I will turn that into a story idea. I've done that more times than I can recall.
Well, for most of the time that I was, as mentioned earlier, for most of the time that I was writing Isolation Play, I was listening to 21st Century Breakdown, which is why the fifth part of the book is called The Static Age. Not really. No, but there's nothing in there really from the songs, and I don't get as much inspiration from song lyrics. I did a couple short stories recently, and I think a lot of my inspiration for stories comes from characters and situations. So I'll put the characters into, I'm like, I know this is what's going on, and I'm going to see what comes out of it. But I always have things in my head about, and this I think plays back to what you said, Colson, about they start out being about nothing but always end up being about something, because we all have these experiences, and so I always find something in a situation that I want to speak about, and the stories end up being about that. And then a lot of times I have to go back to the beginning and change things slightly because now I understand what I was writing about. But but yeah, that's how
I think this would probably go to for writing just stories as well as lyrics to a song, is that everybody thinks that, I don't know if everybody thinks this, but they probably think that there's more development that goes into hand before you start putting pen to paper and just start trying things. So you always have this central tenement or idea or something that you want to convey, or maybe you have a scene from an entire novel, just one in your head, and you write that, and you build blocks off of that.
Right.
No one ever has a complete idea from start to finish right when they sit down and start. Nobody does that.
No.
Everybody has maybe, and everybody does things differently. Maybe they have a general outline of what they want to do, but for me, when I start, I have a title or I have one line, and I just build off of that. And many times the meaning changes as I write it, and I figure out while I'm writing, and just something randomly comes to me. For instance, I was writing "I Need a Cape Crusader," which is a title track off of my second album, which is another single, and it's about a guy who is constantly tired of taking care of other people and helping other people through their problems. He feels like a superhero, so he's asking for a superhero because it's come to the point where he's actually going to commit suicide because he can't handle everything. Mm-hmm. He's standing on the top of a building. It did not start out being that way. In fact, I don't even remember what the original was supposed to be, but it was basically going to be, him asking for a superhero for some completely other different reason.
Sex.
Sex. Yes, thank you. We're tying it back. So I need a superhero so I can get completely laid.
Which was actually almost a cover of a Bonnie Tyler song.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got the Flash.
Oh.
So my recommendation is don't be afraid to start writing something. It doesn't have to be perfect at the beginning, and you're going to change it.
Yeah.
You're going to change
it.
it.
With Summerhill, that whole story came from, how do I get a two-legged dog person to have a ballroom dance with a waitress aboard an interdimensional cruise ship? That was my initial mental image for that story.
What's up, Doctor
if you can
Who?
believe it. Everyone compares this story to Doctor Who.
Oh, but there's a second part of that question which we need to get to as well.
Yes, about multiple story arcs in a novel narrative. That is absolutely possible.
I think that's fine if you can keep track of them and like
look at Kyle's own Shadow of the Father. There you go.
Yeah, and not like lose track of one for too long, and so that when you come back to it, I mean, they all have to kind of keep fresh. And the David Mitchell book that I was recently reading, 1,000 Autumns of Jacob de Zoet, he has several plot lines going on at once, and separates the book out into sections so that one plot line comes to a good resting point before you go on to some of the other ones.
Yeah.
But you keep the tension between them, but you never feel like any of them is being
also
favored.
Look at The Empire Strikes Back. After the initial setup of the movie with the Battle of Hoth, Luke goes off to learn the Jedi ways from Yoda, while Han Solo and Princess Leia are on the run from the Empire. Those are two completely separate plot lines. The characters don't even cross paths again until the end of the movie.
I have an example of when I think it's going overboard, and you may disagree with me. It's a great series, it's a great book, but if everybody out there has read His Dark Materials, Philip Pullman?
Yeah,
the first one.
So
the third book,
when you have the introduction of the Muffalettas, or I forget, and that's a sandwich, but what the hell their name is?
The anthropologist with the wheeled critters, the wheeled elephants.
I forget her, Dr. Watson or Dr. Mary.
Dr. Mary something.
Yeah, Dr. Mary something. Anyway, there's this like third subplot, which is kind of explaining how something is working in the background that's part of the universe, and it's cool to understand, but this woman has like no bearing, and everything that she does in this little subplot has no bearing on the rest of the story, and really at the end, like, has this really cheesy tie-in that doesn't even add anything to the story, I feel.
No, I agree.
I think that's when you're going overboard. So you just want to make sure that if you're going to do multiple arcs, I think you should probably want them to tie in a little sooner, or at least have an indication that they're probably going to. Like a little indication for the reader to dawn, like, oh yeah, I guess this is connected.
Well, the other way you could do it, and I think the problem that he had with that, is you can start out with one story and then split off into multiple arcs once the reader knows the characters involved, and which is, your Empire Strikes Back example. The readers already knew Luke and Han and Leia from Star Wars, so you can have each of them have a separate adventure, and the reader's going to be like, cool, that's fine.
Yeah.
My sort of counterexample, when I was 10 years old, and again, this is going to be heresy to some of the people on the podcast, but I read Lord of the Rings, and
that is heresy. Stop
I was
reading.
like... I followed it all through Fellowship of the Ring, and I was like, this is cool, this is super cool, I want to see the ring and the monsters and everything. And then when they all split up, I was like, I only care about Frodo and Sam. I started following the rest of them, and I was like, oh, they're going and they're talking to this king, and there's this thing happening in this hall, and there's Riders of Rohan. I have no idea where this is, and what is happening with Frodo and Sam? Why do I have to wade through all of this crap before we get back to that? And I wasn't invested enough in the characters and the world of this other plot to really care about it.
That's why the Narnia books always trip me up at the silver chair. Because I'm like, why do I suddenly care about Eustace and Jill?
Right.
Where are the rest of the kids? Like,
and if you give it a chance, it's a good story.
It is. And I think the themes that the book covers are really cool. But like when you're like a preteen and you're reading those books for the first time, like you can't appreciate like the subtleties of writing. And you're like, where are like the 4 children that I've been following for the first 3 books?
And he didn't make Eustace a strong enough character in the 3rd book to have him be able to carry an entire.
No, he was a good side character in the first book, and I think his arc in the 3rd book was good, but he wasn't leading cast material.
No, he wasn't strong enough to carry the book.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's our answer for that. Anything else to add on this one?
I have nothing else to add.
Do you want to read the next one, or do you want to read Pyro's letter?
I can read the next one.
All right, I'll read Pyro's letter.
Dear Sheathers, I recently noticed a problem with my reading habits during my regular perusal of the writing sites I patronize. At some point in the
Hi, Candrel.
Exactly, I was just thinking that. I'm glad you said it. At some point in the not-too-distant past...
Candrel was cool at FC. We got to hang
I've
out with him a
simply
little
become
bit.
so fed up with fan fiction that I simply have no interest in it anymore. Pokemon, Digimon, Lion King, Star Fox... Mewtwo, Tentacruel, Aerodactyl. I don't care which widely publicized world it inhabits anymore. If it's not the author's own creation, then I'm simply not interested. I've tried. I swear I have, even to the point of having written some fan fiction myself. I think that sometime recently, some tiny part of my childhood has finally breathed its last stuttering gasp.
Well, at least he's not being too dramatic about it.
Yet in the same breath as I say that, there are stories I love with characters so clearly inspired by this same fan-ficted world that it's uncanny. I continue to enjoy these stories even though the connection is clear, because the authors made an effort to take the inspiration and craft their own work with it. This leads me to my question. Where do you draw the line between being the character and being clearly inspired by? Do you two have characters that were cut from the same mold as some other we may readily recognize, but given your own twist to make them unique, and by extension your own? As always, Condrel the flummoxed felletist.
How's he flummoxed?
I don't know, but like
did he
considering
forget how to give a blowjob? I'll show him.
Considering that by the time this email airs, I will have met you in person, I'm curious about your self-confidence and your blowjob giving skills as well.
I'll judge.
Well, he's always been the...
He's been a very blowjobby fox.
Yes.
Blowjobby fox?
Yeah.
I need a bumper sticker with it.
You can put that in your Wix, blowjobby.
Yeah, but what if you put oral in there? Then you're just being redundant.
Oh no, maybe you like
anything
oral on
goes, and then you
girls.
list everything else in the Wix. It's like, no, you put anything goes, which means you don't need anything else. That kind of covers every base. I really hate it when people do that.
I saw somebody who wrote, just like, who used the custom flag and just wrote, the Wix is insufficient.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is, I don't know what to say to that.
Although, like, if you look, like, I remember the first time I looked at the full list of, like, flags on the Wix on tapestries, and, like, there were some things I'm like, no, you made that up. You made
what?
that up to shock people.
Like what?
Like, things that I've since come to realize they didn't make up, like mummification. No, that's a real thing I learned.
No, that's just being restricted.
Exactly, yeah. No,
Wow, and having your organs removed?
Well, you know what's funny is that
there are people who are into that, too.
I have
Well,
never,
yeah.
but I've never seen mummification fetish explained that way. It's always basically just you are
It's the
restricted completely
restriction
in
movement.
movement.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah, they're like human-sized saran wrap machines you can get.
So hot.
Anyway, Condrel's question.
Fanfic, yay or nay?
Well, so
yeah.
I think one of the best illustrations of this is Terry Brooks' Sword of Shannara, which is
Already laughing.
well, which is quite clearly Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean, I've only read like one of the books, so...
Well, I read the first one, and the interesting thing was, it was quite clearly almost a retelling of Lord of the Rings with different characters and a different item. But at the same time, he put a lot of care into the characters themselves, and he later followed it up with sequels, and the characters grew into their own world. So I'm not sure where that first one would follow. I know a lot of people made fun of it because they were like, doesn't even not have an original idea. But he later developed it further, and so I think that's kind of what Condrel's talking about. I'm not really sure otherwise. I mean, if you make the characters your own, as in a way other than just like changing the names, changing the ethnicity or whatever.
And like, I kind of want to, as a good example, I want to bring up Kurosawa, who bases a lot of his films on the works of Shakespeare. And it's not like, oh, you're ripping off Shakespeare. It's like, he is clearly doing an homage to Shakespeare and just changing the setting and giving his own like unique twist on it.
Right, so he's taking the story,
Right.
if not, well, in some cases, the characters.
Yeah, I mean, like, their names obviously aren't the same because they're all Japanese now, but...
Well, except the Seven Samurai was based on that cowboy film, right?
Oh, God. But no, like, you've got, like, Throne of Blood, which is Macbeth, and you've got Ron, which is King Lear.
Yeah.
I know there's more.
Hidden Fortress.
Hidden Fortress with Star Wars.
Yes.
Yes, you had to bring it back to Star Wars.
Well, I did it for you.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I've written some fan fictions, but I don't think I've written any stories that were kind of taken from another story and then I just changed things around a bit.
No, me neither. I've also written fan fiction. Surprise! I wrote Star Wars. Nobody would have guessed that.
What species was Han Lolo?
No,
Did you?
I didn't write furry Star Wars.
Well,
I
why not?
write things that aren't about animals.
Then why do we care?
Well, actually, and a good point. Actually, Star Wars isn't a bad example of this because the Star Wars universe exists being told by other authors and other creators who are not George Lucas.
And they're
So
doing a better job.
it's almost like licensed fan fiction. Like, hey,
Oh, yeah.
will you write a
totally
story
is.
that's in this setting with these characters that you didn't create? And like, some of the Star Wars books are not so great, and some of the Star Wars books are really good. And your mileage may vary on which authors you prefer and which ones you don't like. But I mean, that's a case where like some people do have a good grasp of writing a character they didn't create, and they can tell a convincing story. And like in this case, like there's certain authors like, yes, like I believe that like in this situation, this is what like Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia would do, like because like you have written them faithful to the character in a situation that you have created uniquely, and like I think that that's perfectly valid.
And I think there's a difference in fan fiction between like what would happen if I'm trying to remember what the plot of some of Cassie Clare's Harry Potter fan fiction was.
Oh god!
But it all had to do with Draco. Like,
it was all Draco.
What if Draco's family put him into a position that tested his loyalty to the dark arts and made him realize that actually what happens is he switches identities with Harry like in the very beginning, and so they get a taste of each other's lives. Like what would happen if that happened?
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and what would happen if Simba had sex with me?
That's true.
I mean, those are different kinds of fan fiction stories.
What would happen if Fox ate Falco?
If Simba had sex with you, he probably wouldn't have ever gotten together with Nala, and
No, this would be after.
It would be after.
Yeah.
Because Nala's his beard.
Then the pride falls into major chaos, and we end up with a situation like we did when Scar was in charge. Way to go, idiot!
But
why are you having
why did
sex
you-
with an animal that's not even native to this continent? God.
And then additionally, we'll probably eat
did
you
you
when
read
it's
the
done.
script too?
What's that over there? Is that the script?
Hey guys, what's going on in this thread?
I like where this thread is going.
Bump.
So I don't know if that there's anything comparable in music, like doing cover versions, or is it permissible? I mean, if you do a cover, it's okay to do a cover because it's kind of like your interpretation of the
If
original.
you do a cover,
but-
you should never do it exactly like it was done before. You're just like, well, I played the instrument parts and I just sang it exactly like he did. What's the point?
Right.
Although I've done plenty of those. But
Do as I say, not as I do.
yeah, exactly. Oh, you need better carriage. What's going on here? Am I slumping
Don't
underneath
slump.
the?
Kit's very concerned about your posture.
And your muzzle positioning.
Yeah. Was I not getting picked up good? Oh, I know I
Kit.
was slumping. I like to slump.
To address a specific...
Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Were you still making
Kit's
a point?
very concerned
I
with
don't
muzzle
remember.
position.
Oh.
What? Oh, covers. Covers. Yeah. So there's no such thing as an original idea in music. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna say it. There's no such thing as an original idea in music. It's been done before, or it has been done in a slightly different fashion with maybe slightly different instruments. But whatever you're doing, if you're trying to be original, hi Broken Bells. Guess what? Someone else has done it before. They've probably done it better.
Oh, what's the Australian band that did that song where it's like every major pop song ever?
Oh, that's
right.
What are those guys?
They were a comedy troupe.
Yeah.
Oh, the Axis of
Axis of Awesome.
Axis of
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right. Three chord song.
The three chord,
Yeah, three-chord song.
that don't stop believing.
Right, and that
Yeah.
they were not the first people to even do that. There was another one before that.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't remember what it was, but I know for a fact that I've seen one well before they did theirs. But when it comes down to creating an original idea from something that's like something else, you just got to put your own spin on it. I mean, there's small differences that make all the world. So it doesn't. You can take a style from someone, and the guy's singing like Maroon 5, but if your instrument backing track is a little different, then guess what? You're not Maroon 5. It's still okay. There's no original idea in music. Everyone is always going to sound like someone else.
It's like,
and the same thing in writing. You're going to, for people who are really into critiquing writing, people are always going to say you write like someone else, or they're going to compare you to someone else.
It's like Kyell and I both write stories about gay animal people doing whatever, but other than that, like our writing is pretty different.
Right. But someone
I
could
think
probably...
even the whatevers are pretty similar. There's not much. There's not a whole lot. I mean, like, and by which I mean, if you were to sort of draw similarity charts, I think our stories are more similar to each other's than either of ours would be to like Fuzzwolf's.
That's true.
Fuzzwolf goes more into the kind of the fetishy.
Yeah. Which is true. I was actually thinking, I'm like, I wonder what it would be like if like we both deliberately tried to write a story in each other's style. But I don't think I could write in your style. I think it would just turn into mine.
Yeah, and I don't know that they're different enough that it would be really that remarkable. I mean,
I do think that if you put our stories side by side and didn't put our names on it, people would tell who wrote which, and not
Actually,
just because of the content.
That sounds like an awesome challenge. I should give you like a 2-page short story or 3-page, something that wouldn't take you very long, and basically the exact same plot, the exact same characters. Now write the story.
And just see if people can tell.
And
which
see if
is
people
which.
can, and just like read an excerpt from it.
We
And
could post them up. We could post them up on the Unsheathed.
I think that would be
FA
hilarious
account.
to find out.
I will do that. If you will do that.
That sounds like it would be really actually very challenging to determine.
So, do you want to come up with the story idea
right now on the fly?
Yeah, give us 2 characters.
Well, by the end of the podcast,
okay.
we have a letter to read, which is more directed at us, which
Right,
I just wanted to read because it was timely, so you can think about it.
All right.
Did you have any more comments on the?
Yeah, just about the thing where Kendall's like, I'm done with fan fiction. One of the things there is, I mean, fan fiction sort of hit its boom over the last decade. And like it used to be like, Harry Potter was the big catalyst for it. Like fan fiction used to be this weird niche thing, and now it's everywhere. And so it just sort of follows like Sturgeon's law, where like there is more of it, therefore there is more bad examples of it.
Yeah.
And so like it's like there's going to be more bad fan fiction because there's just more fan fiction. I mean, I'm sure there's still good fan fiction out there. I don't really read fan fiction anymore either because like I don't know if it's because I grew out of it or if because I just have enough stuff to read that I can be assured it has been professionally vetted on some level.
Right. Okay. Our third letter is from our good friend Pyro, who listened to our challenge finally. Dear bastards. First of all, the Spanish Civil War? Really? Come on. God, now I have to research the setting so I can at least make it somewhat true to life. And Pablo Picasso, too. Good Lord, you did not make this easy now, did you? But that's not why I sent you this email. I sent you this email because at the moment I'm helping out a fellow writer on a one-to-one basis. Now, he's posted a story, asked me to look it over, and I was less than positive. I've been trying to help him out and have given him a number of pointers and advice on how to do so. The problem is that he's admitted to me that he does not like some of the suggestions I've given him and has said that he's going to put them into the story anyway. Now, my questions are these. Is this a problem? Have I perhaps overstepped the bounds of an editor? I don't think I have, but I don't want to stifle his voice in favor of mine. If he's chafing at some of the suggestions I've made, will his voice suffer for it? Regards, Fern, Pyro. P.S. You guys are still bastards.
Pyro, if you want to change your name, you don't need our permission. If you don't want to be called Pyro anymore, you can come up with a name. I promise you can.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week, too, didn't we?
Yes.
What's the Fern? Is it Furnace?
It's going to start... It was leading into Furnace Hemingway, I believe.
Furnace Hemingway, right. That's right. First of all, it wouldn't be a challenge if it was easy. So...
Yeah.
And secondly, no, you have not overstepped your bounds, and your friend is, just as you are not obliged to restrain your feedback, your friend is not obliged to take any of your feedback. And if it is bothering you that much, it may be that you just say, okay, clearly you and I have different ideas about what constitutes a good story, and I probably shouldn't edit for you in the future because I'm just going to keep telling you to change these things, and you're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, he doesn't like your suggestions, but he's doing it anyway. And so I don't know enough about this person. Like, is he doing this out of spite? Is he doing it to be petulant? Is he doing it because he just trusts that you know what you're talking about and he doesn't? I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons why this might be the case. Maybe, is he a new writer who's not used to taking criticism, but he's like, well, you're the editor, so I'll take your word for it? Or he's like, well, fine, if you think it's going to make it better, I'll do it, and then when I post it, you can see how wrong you were. I mean, these are different things, and not knowing that, it kind of changes,
I get the feeling that it's stuff like, he might have told him, don't introduce the character this way because that makes the story weaker, and the guy's like, no, but I like doing it that way, so I'm going to do it anyway. That it's just sort of differences of opinion on what makes a good writer, and again, without knowing who the other writer is, we can't really say too much more about it, but the whole...
Go on.
I was going to say, the whole editor-writer thing is an agreement. The reader agrees, or the writer agrees, I'm going to give this work to you, and you tell me what you think about it, and you tell me honestly what you think I should change. And the editor says, I'm going to tell you this, and you do with it whatever you want. It's just one person's feedback. I don't know what else to say.
You just get like a big rubber stamp that just says, this is crap. And
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's getting to the point for you where you might just want to say, okay, clearly I'm not the right editor for you, so
yeah.
we shouldn't work together anymore. Make sure you don't be a jackass about it, but just say, no hard feelings, but I'm going to continue to give you this advice, and if you're going to continue to ignore it, then it's just going to keep coming up, and it's probably not worth continuing to associate. One of the questions which Kip brings up, a good question is, do you know what he's trying to do with the story? And a whole thing about stifling another writer's voice, it is a good worry to have as an editor, but you want to know, what is the writer trying to accomplish with the story? What feeling are they trying to convey? And then you can tell them, well, I am not getting that feeling from the story. I am not getting this effect that you're trying to create from the story. Foos and I have had huge long discussions about one minor phrase that I threw into a paragraph, and he was all like, what do you mean by this? Do you mean this to be sexy? And so we've had this long ongoing thing.
For the first year of my working on Summerhill, the question was, what are you trying to do with this? And the answer was, I don't know. Now I'm pretty sure I know what I'm trying to do with it, which is a lot better.
That's a good place to start with your story.
Oh.
It's like poetry. See, it happens and then it happens again. It's like rhyming.
It's not the only part of it was poetic that I was vomiting in stanzas. I don't even know what that means.
Do you get people giving you feedback on your music? Are there people that you trust more than others? And
Well, yes, of course. There's a lot of people that I would trust more than other people. You don't have to, this is the same thing goes for writing. You don't have to be an author yourself to tell when something is poorly written,
right,
or they're not doing a good job of conveying what you think they probably would want to do. Maybe if they went into more like technical aspects of writing, like, if you were doing poetry, like you said, I don't like what you did with this stanza or something like that. You may not want to listen to a person who's, not having done it themselves, but you don't have to be a musician to tell when something sucks or when something's out of balance. So
right.
You always take that feedback.
You may have to be to try to tell them how to fix it.
Right. You may not, the person providing the feedback may not be able to tell that, but we can all have universal appreciation art. We can all tell when things are a little off.
Yeah.
But it's different where it's like, well, this song is dance rock, and I hate dance rock, so this song sucks.
That is stupid. Yeah. It's like,
I bet you get a lot of that.
Not as much. I get a lot of people who are saying, I wish you didn't end the song that way. I'm like, but that is a stylistic choice I made. Or like, I didn't like that you killed off the character. Well, that was my intention.
Yeah. Sorry, that was the story.
Exactly, I wrote the story. I'm not going to change that part. I don't understand
there.
Well, it's more just like, why would you make a comment like that in criticism? It's like, I don't like the choice you made. Well, okay. What's your response to that? I mean, what are you supposed to say?
It's like, well, I didn't do that, so...
Yeah, exactly. So how about that?
Write your own song.
Right.
Write your own story.
Exactly. And you can
write a fanfic.
Write a fanfic.
Oh, there you
go. So one thing that I wanted to mention real quick that I thought about earlier and then forgot, because you were talking about making the lyrics sound good. Mm-hmm. And I know when you're writing poetry, every word you have to pay attention to the cadence and the meter and the sound of how they sound together. And when you're writing a short story too, the way that all the words flow together is really important. And again, still with a novel, I think you can spend all your time on the novel, like making sure that every single paragraph flows well like that. But I think you can also produce that effect with some key sections, like beginnings and ends of chapters. That definitely the beginning and the end of the novel, you want them to flow. You want them to be somewhat poetic so that people remember certain emotional climaxes, emotional moments. And that is something that I think a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to. And it's why a lot of prose sounds kind of flat, and a lot of amateur songs just sound like, I'm just saying this because this is the first way I thought of to say this thing, and it kind of scans with the music, and but they don't pay attention to the craft of finding different words, finding different ways to say things, and different ways that give different perspectives to it and that sound good.
Right. That's why I think it's really important for dialogue in books
Yeah.
to really have a cadence and flow. You should probably like, well, I don't know if you, I'm sure you guys don't do this, but if I were going to write dialogue, you know, I'd probably like have a conversation with myself, because it's like if it doesn't work with yourself, people wouldn't do that. So why would you write that?
Oh, yeah. We've told people a lot, read your stuff
Yeah.
out loud.
Yeah.
When you read it out loud, you find so many things. I read all of Isolation Play out loud to myself when Kit wasn't available. It doesn't work as well. It's better if there's someone listening, but my throat couldn't really take that.
I wish that somebody else were here to enjoy the male pregnancy scene with me.
Oh, he was there for that one.
Male pregnancy scene?
Oh yeah, you didn't know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The
Someone's
whole
having
Emperor
dead
subplot.
babies.
Yeah.
All right, though.
And that someone is Lee.
Foiga babies.
Oh, God. Why would you go there?
Kit's telling me I can't talk anymore. So do you have a
Yes.
Do you have an idea for us?
Yes, and I'm going to give a stipulation. So 2 characters, a setting, and something you have to focus on. So you're not going to write the entire thing, but just a little section, because obviously you guys are very busy and you don't have a ton of time. But basically, 2 people at a bar. You're going to have, let's say, a border collie and a rabbit.
Okay.
College age. The rabbit is very annoyed with the collie and is going to break up with them over the drinks that they're having at the bar. You need to write that dialogue, and you also need to be very descriptive with a focus on the annoyance in the rabbit's face at pretty much everything that the collie rebuttals with.
Okay, I can
All
do
right.
that.
A breakup scene. I'll put on Greg Kinn for that.
I'll read some of my stories.
What's that? Gender. Well, since this is, primarily gay authors in here, and let's make it gay.
Okay. Gay breakup scene.
Gay breakup scene.
Get into my gay.
Get into my gay.
I don't know what that means. I said words.
Words.
I feel like the woman with the dogs in hyperbole and a half.
So, thank you again, Colson, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again for everybody who came out at FC. We're looking forward to Furry Fiesta. It is still January. We're still ongoing with the Shorty Awards on Twitter, bit.ly/Shorty. You can nominate K.M. Hirosaki from Twitter or Kyle Gold from Twitter in the author category. You can also nominate...
Oh, don't even bother.
Which account for the music category?
It would be Rudderbutt, but there's so many people that against me, so don't even bother. I don't want to win awards. I don't. I'm just, everybody has their thing of what they want to do, and this is not a knock against you guys.
No. But the thing about the nominations is it lets people kind of express to you why they appreciate your music.
Well, that is cool, and I would appreciate that, sure.
So go ahead and it's shortyawards.com, bit.ly/Shorty also works. And you can, therefore, follow Colson Otter as Rudderbutt on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you on? FA?
Colson.
Just Colson, Colson.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
I nominate Rudderbutt in Fellatio, because boy howdy can that otter suck.
We all bring it back to sex.
Yeah. We could
and if you get enough votes, we can have a fellatio category. I don't think we can.
I'm a non-flummoxed fallatist.
Yeah.
Fallatist?
Fallatist.
We could just code word it as flautist.
Flautist.
And then people would think he plays the flute really well.
Yeah.
The skin flute.
Kyle on FA, Kyle Gold on Twitter, Kyle Gold on LiveJournal.
K.M. Hirosaki on all 3 of those.
Our email address is unsheathedpodcast@gmail.com. Write in and let us know what kind of bumper style you would like Colson to do for us. J-pop was not ruled out as an option.
Wow, I could totally do J-pop. That would be amazing.
Really?
You'll have to give me some lyrics.
Okay, I can do that.
And, tell me how to say them.
Just pronunciate it out.
What does that mean?
That's an in-joke.
It is the tree of life.
Yes, in Norse mythology.
I didn't know.
Yeah, we were talking before the podcast about how all Japanese anime has to have some kind of reference to Norse mythology.
Yes.
Interesting.
I think it's the whale fishing that
Oh my
ties
God.
it in.
Too soon.
It's been like 100 years.
They still do it.
Well, for Norway.
Oh,
And we had a listener from Norway anyway.
you know they were called sperm whales because people used to think that they were covered in sperm. They're not.
I don't believe that. Citation needed.
Dude, they're like covered with this sticky white stuff.
Citation needed.
All right.
I'll get a marine biologist who is not
Wikipedia.
Cosmo Kramer.
Thank you. It was George. George Costanza.
Oh, you're right, it was
marine
George.
Biologist.
Kramer was
That's
one
one
of
of
the,
That's one of the best episodes.
It is. Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Yeah.
whether it be fan fiction or song lyrics or hot gay sex stories, good night and keep writing.